Morning, folks. Another dog walk and talk. Today, I want to talk about debt from an Irish perspective. I'm aware that some people are looking at my videos from various countries around the world. There's America, New Zealand, Venezuela, the UK. But I suppose most of my videos are related to Ireland, or if you are living in Ireland. And yes, today's video is about debt, and I'm talking about the kind of debt that if it's ruining your life and is overwhelming you and causing you and your family serious trouble and you're feeling crushed by it, that kind of debt. Not the kind of debt if you just owe a few €100 on a credit card. I'm on about serious debt. Let's say 20, 30, 40k. And you just can't, no matter what you do, you just can't get out of it. And you feel kind of quite lost, stressed, as we know money, finances can do to people and to families. I've seen it happen. And you just feel that there's no way out, and that it's never ending. Well, I can tell you there is a way out. Now, as always, I'm no expert, I'm not a professional, but I try to do as much research as I can. I try to read up on subjects as best as I can, and I won't understand everything, and sometimes I won't be able to put it in a way where us common people, if you like, can kind of understand, but I'll do my best. So look, I suppose a little bit of disclaimer, I don't take my advice, run with it, and then, you know, kind of say, well, such and such and so on YouTube said this, that, the other, and I went with it and it didn't work. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to, with a subject like this and as serious as this, I'm just trying to give people a bit of hope. So I'll get to it, you know, and I will start. I kind of always feel the need to be careful about how I say things, but I'm going to start with let's just say you're an ordinary Joe Soap, okay? You're living in a council house in a suburb of a city in Ireland, or let's say you have a mortgage, whatever. It doesn't have to be a council house. But let's just say, you know what I mean, let's just say you're a regular person with a regular job, not a massive high paying job, and look, life has got on top of you. Credit cards, bills, kids, expenses, you know, you haven't gone wild, you haven't been out partying and, you know, holidays, thousands and thousands of euros worth of holidays every year, and, you know, you haven't walked blindly into debt. Let's say it has just mounted up on you, you know. It's not the end. Try not to panic. I know it might be scary, but try not to panic. Fly on the camera there. If you're at that point and you just simply do not know what to do, and you and your family are seriously overwhelmed and afraid of what's going to happen, the first thing you need to do is pick up the phone, okay? And you might have heard ads on the radio, seen them on TV, read things online, but you'd be surprised how many people just kind of don't really pay attention or ignore the advice. But pick up the phone, and I would say our first port of call is what we have here in Ireland, an agency called MABS, M-A-B-S, MABS. Explain to them the situation. You will get to talk to an actual human being, and there's no magic wand to be waved from day one, okay? Let's get that straight. This is quite a drawn out process, but it's a start. Pick up the phone, explain your situation, and I think it's anywhere from 1 to 3 or 4 weeks. They'll try and arrange an appointment for you. So you can either kind of go through it in more detail, and they can start looking at paperwork, bank statements, pay slips, all this kind of stuff. So make sure you start getting all them in order. I think I was in the dark there for quite a while, was I? I'm not a filmmaker. Get all your paperwork in order while you're waiting for the appointment, and they will either talk to you or they will put you onto somebody called, the abbreviation is PIP, P-I-P, a personal insolvency practitioner. Now these are independent financial agencies or officers or whatever, but they work with the likes of MABS and kind of on an official kind of governmental basis, I think. And what these people do is they go deep into what has gone on, kind of what has happened. They look at all your paperwork and everything else, and they come up with a plan, okay? They come up with a plan, and let's say you have a big loan from a bank that you're struggling to pay back. Let's say it's getting to the stage where you can barely afford to pay the bills, food, all that kind of real stuff, you know. If you're in real trouble, they'll come up with a plan. Okay, I have to stop now. The hay fever is getting to me. And what they will then do, now this all takes a while, this all takes a few weeks, right? But what they will do then is they will approach the banks, the credit card people, whatever body of people you owe the debt to. They will approach them and say, okay, we have this person now on our books, we're dealing with them, and we're trying to structure their finances in a way so that they can pay what they can afford back to you, okay? And in doing so, they will arrange it in a way so that they don't just take kind of every spare penny from you. They structure a plan with you so that you can afford to live. You know, you have money for food, for rent, for your mortgage. But they'll even look at that. You know, how much you need to pay your mortgage back. Maybe they will help you restructure your mortgage so that you're paying interest only for a few years at least, to give you that buffer. Do you know what I mean? If you haven't got a mortgage, they'll talk to whoever and try and arrange the same kind of plan to help you pay bit by bit, week by week, month by month, whatever, just to show that you're paying some back. But they won't fleece you. They'll structure your plan so that you can afford to live, you can afford to put fuel in your car to go to work, etc, etc. But if you're unemployed, they'll do the same for you. They won't you know, if you're not working, you can still do all this. It doesn't matter. You know, I think they treat people like people, you know. And they put these plans into place, and they go to, say, a bank, and they say, here's this person, right? This is their life at the moment. They're overwhelmed, they're struggling, but they're willing to engage and pay bit by bit back, and so on and so on. This is all the short story. This is all the brief version of what happens. It takes weeks, up to months. The bank takes your story, takes what this PIP, Personal Insolvency Practitioner, has presented to them, and they put it to a panel and they decide. And what they do then is they look at your finances, your paperwork. Sorry, I was getting distracted there. And they go over, this panel go over all this, and they decide, yeah, look, this person's fallen on hard times, they're struggling, but at least they're engaging, and they've engaged somebody to help them find their way back. A lot of the time they'll say, yeah, we're happy with that, we'll go along with that plan, and they might create a 3-5 year plan, or they might agree with the PIP's 3 to 5 year plan on restructuring your finances and paying back what you can. Now, here's the thing. There are times whereby if everyone agrees to this plan, if you haven't paid off your debt in full after the agreed amount of time, my understanding of it is they can wipe that debt out. And that's a legally binding position. They can wipe that debt out. And not only is the debt wiped out, it's like there's a bit of a fair play agreement, it seems to me, where the banks say, okay, they've tried, they've stuck to the plan, they've committed themselves to it, and they've stuck to their side of the bargain, and they've done what they can. They haven't been reckless during that time. They haven't taken the piss. Do you know what I mean? And so our side of the bargain is, when that time is up, the 3 to 5 years, whatever it is, they still haven't paid that back, they will wipe the slate clean. That's my understanding of it. Could be wrong. If I am, get on to me, let me know. But as far as I know, I'm not talking shite. Now, if they, and during this process, by the way, you have sort of protection. Let's say you're getting letters and phone calls about your debt. You need to pay up. You need to do this. I'm not talking debt collection agencies here. I'm talking about proper institutions like banks and so on, putting the pressure on you. You know, maybe you think you're going to lose your home and all this kind of stuff. I'm talking about all that heavy stuff. If during this process, if they get on to you and they keep, you know, let's call it harassing you. Usually, if you say, come here, I'm engaged with MABS and a personal insolvency practitioner, who's applying for this order and this certificate and so on and so on, usually they back off, you know, out of some kind of respect, you know, okay, they're trying to do something about it, let's take a step back. Usually they do, right? But let's say what happens is you go through MABS, you get the PIP, and they arrange a plan and they present it to the banks and so on and so on, and the banks say, no, we're not interested. Nope, we don't like what we're seeing. Sorry about this. So we're going to press ahead with our debt collection plans and so on and so on. In other words, we're going to keep putting the pressure on these people. Well, then your PIP, your personal insolvency practitioner, can then go to the court and apply to a judge for what's called, I think, something like a protection certificate, something like that. You can look all this up, by the way. This is how I get this information. And he can present it to the judge and again explain what the situation is, how you're trying, how you're willing to engage, how you're committed, and so on and so on. And a judge can then, if everything is in order and everything is okay and you are a genuine person who's trying to help yourself and get out of this, a judge can then turn around to the banks and say, if you don't like it, tough, you have to engage. Now you need to stop calling, whatever, sending letters, all this kind of stuff. You can actually be protected from all that. And if they continue, if they continue to kind of keep getting onto you, it's illegal. Not many people know this. So there are routes you can absolutely take. You do have options, okay? Never forget that. Don't give up. I know you could be in the you know, that horrible dark zone where you're thinking, what the fuck am I going to do here? But don't give up. Just take the task on. Treat it like a job. Right, how do I go about this? What tools do I have available? How do I use them? And then look at a time frame. But there are options out there. All right. So try not to panic. Try not to lose hope. I know it's hard. Easier said than done. I'm not in that boat. But I'm just putting this out there. This hope, this message. You know, the kind of the research, I suppose, that I've done, because I know a lot of people find it tough out there. Expenses are these days, Jesus, it's tough. It's tough to live now, you know, and you can very easily slip between the cracks and find yourself in this position. But don't give up. There are options. Now, I'll point out the caveat for all of this, okay, because there is one. I'll point out the snag in all of this. Let's create a scenario. You're living a normal life, okay, you have a regular job, you're living a comfortable life. You have bills and expenses like all the rest of us. All right. And then you take your family savings and go out to Vegas or something, whatever. And you blow it all. And in other words, you get reckless, you get stupid, you make seriously bad choices, and you put yourself and your family in debt and under the strain and stress of all that involves. During these processes, with MABS, getting a PIP, all this kind of stuff. They scrutinise your paperwork. By paperwork I mean bank statements and all that kind of stuff. They scrutinise it with a magnifying glass, and they look at your whatever, your withdrawals, your ATM withdrawals, your spends, what have you done, you know. And if you've been carefree and thrown caution to the wind and not giving a shit about anyone or anything, and kind of just blown your money, or just been really reckless, that's a different kettle of fish. I mean, they're not going to tell you to piss off. These people that would ordinarily help you, you know, they're not. But they're going to look at you a bit differently. And they're not going to treat you as urgently as somebody who has genuinely fallen into hard times. Alright, let's be straight about this. So, just to, you know, this is not a get out of jail free card. It's not. And if you abuse it, they'll find out. They'll cop what you're doing, and you'll be treated accordingly. Now again, I don't think they will outright refuse to help you, but you know what I'm saying. So, but yeah, and if you take all these options, let's say you pick up the phone, day one, you pick up the phone, MABS, I'm in trouble here, I've done my best, can't get out of it, I'm under serious stress here, me and my family's lives have poor quality of life, we need help. Right, MABS will talk to you on the phone, they'll try and give you some advice, and then my understanding is they'll try to arrange to meet with you or put you onto a personal insolvency practitioner, and that'll happen maybe anywhere from 1 to 3, 4 weeks. Once you have that meeting, a plan will be drawn up. What can you do? What can you afford? What can you pay? How much can you pay? Even if it's only a few euro per week for this, that and the other, pay back loans, pay back credit cards, whatever. They'll draw up this plan, as I say, in a way that still lets you live and afford the things that you need, you and your family need. Right? Then my understanding is they'll apply to, let's say, the bank, and they'll say, here, I'm a PIP, I'm representing this family here, this is the plan we've drawn up, they're willing to engage, are you willing to engage? Quite often a bank and their judging panel who looks through all this will say, right, well, let's call a dog, getting something out of them is better than getting nothing. So they usually play ball, but if they don't, then as I said, the PIP may say, oh okay, well we'll just go to a court, then we'll just go to a judge and see if a judge can force us to play ball, because these people aren't criminals, they've just fallen on hard times and they're trying to do their best. So, and then he might get that court order, you know, and you are protected. But if the bank agree, if they're nice and they agree to this plan, then that's you covered for however long the agreement is for, 3 to 5 years, and the letterbox should stop hopping with letters about your debt, and the phone calls should stop. Okay. And you can begin again, essentially. Am I in the dark here or what? You can begin again, essentially. Right? And you know, start restructuring your lives, getting on top of stuff, and just regroup and rebuild. And once you haven't been reckless about it, you know, you're in with a fair shout. But let's say all that happens, the bank says no, not interested. The PIP goes to court, says, I'm representing this family, the banks have told us to piss off, so I kind of need you to put in some protection for them. And the judge says, no, piss off. It's still not over. You can then file for bankruptcy, where you declare, no, I'm insolvent, can't afford anything, it's game over, and you go down the bankruptcy route, and once that is filed and agreed upon, etc., etc., it's a legal process, it's a legal structure, and it's not just, oh, I want to be bankrupt, and someone says, oh, okay then, we just clear all your debts. It's not that easy. Again, they will scrutinise everything, they'll look at everything, you know, and if they'll think, you know, oh, hang on a minute, you went and fucking gambled all this away. No, we're not playing ball. Do you know? They're not thick, they're not stupid. But if you're just a regular, normal person, that's the nuclear option. File for bankruptcy. And here in Ireland, your bankruptcy ends after 1 year. Obviously, during that year, you will never get another penny credit from anyone or anything or anywhere, you know. But if you are reasonable and you have been struggling to pay off debt, but you have been trying and trying and trying, and you just can't do it anymore, and MABS doesn't work out, PIP doesn't work out, the bank doesn't work out, the fucking judge doesn't work out, you can just file for bankruptcy. And I think your PIP, personal insolvency practitioner, will help you do this. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. Check it out for yourself. But that is the nuclear option, and then all bets are off, and you get that year to, again, regroup, restructure. And here in Ireland, once that year is over, it's your debt is cleared and your bankruptcy ends, and you get on with normal kind of life. So look, none of this is ideal, folks. There's nothing, you know, these are horrible scenarios to find yourself in, horrible positions in life, but it happens. Let's face it, it does. You know, and Ireland is an expensive country these days, and it can happen. You know, here's a car now. There's two cars. So let me just move in. And don't know why the camera's doing that now. So, see, this camera starts doing mad things. But anyway, my point is, there is a nuclear option for you, but don't take the piss with it. Because if you take the piss and think, I can do whatever I want and get myself into as much debt as possible, and I can get out of it, it doesn't work like that. You have to be a genuine case. You have to, you know, you have to be sincere, you have to be willing to engage, you have to show how you got into that debt, etc. Here's another car. You get what I'm saying. So you have options. Try not to worry too much. It's not over, okay? And here in Ireland, you have protection. As long as you play ball, as long as you haven't been horribly reckless, to you and your family's finances. You have, there's help out there and there's protection out there. And not many people are too read up about it and informed about it, but do inform yourself. And don't give up. Alright? Any questions, get on to me, let me know. If I'm wrong about anything, absolutely get on to me, let me know. Because I'm not trying to advise anybody on what to do. I think it's just very useful information for anybody to avail of, but it's all out there for yourself to read about and inform yourself. And okay folks, stay safe, be well, see you later.